The silence inside the luxury restaurant lasted less than 5 seconds, but to billionaire Nathan Carter, it felt like an eternity. Across the polished mahogany table sat one of the most influential investors from Japan, his face calm but unreadable. The translator who was supposed to bridge two worlds had vanished after collapsing from a sudden medical emergency just minutes before the final contract signing. Millions of dollars, thousands of American jobs, and years of hard work were hanging by a thread. Nathan stared helplessly at the untouched contract, realizing that one unexpected moment could destroy everything he had built. Before we continue this unforgettable story, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories that prove one act of compassion can change countless lives. Nathan Carter had earned every headline written about him. By the age of 45, he had transformed a struggling manufacturing company in Columbus, Ohio, into one of America's fastest-growing technology firms. Newspapers called him brilliant, fearless, and unstoppable. Very few people knew the truth behind those polished magazine covers. Nathan had grown up in a tiny apartment with a widowed mother named Margaret who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. Every success he enjoyed carried the memory of those difficult years, reminding him never to waste an opportunity. The meeting scheduled that afternoon was unlike any business negotiation Nathan had ever attended. Hiroshi Takamura, chairman of a respected Japanese engineering company, had flown from Tokyo to finalize a partnership worth nearly $100 million. The agreement would allow Nathan's company to open 3 new factories across Ohio and Kentucky, creating thousands of jobs for families struggling after several plants had closed. Months of preparation had gone into every detail, including hiring an experienced interpreter who specialized in business negotiations. Everything seemed perfect until disaster struck. Only minutes before the meeting began, the interpreter suffered a severe allergic reaction in the restaurant kitchen after accidentally consuming food containing shellfish. Paramedics rushed him to the hospital. Nathan watched the ambulance disappear through the restaurant windows while panic settled heavily on his shoulders. Every replacement translator contacted by his assistants was either hours away or unavailable. Hiroshi arrived exactly on time. Neither businessman wanted to postpone the meeting because Hiroshi's private flight back to California, followed by his international flight to Tokyo, left only a narrow window for completing the agreement. Nathan tried using translation software on his phone, but technical business language quickly became confusing. Simple greetings turned into awkward misunderstandings. Facial expressions grew uncertain. The atmosphere became painfully tense. Several executives whispered that the deal was already lost. Across the restaurant floor, 23-year-old waitress Grace Sullivan noticed everything. Grace had worked at the elegant lakeside bistro for nearly 3 years. Customers admired her warm smile, quick service, and calm personality, but very few knew her remarkable story. Born in Seattle, Washington, Grace had spent most of her childhood moving between American military bases because her father served in the United States Navy. During one assignment in Yokosuka, Japan, Grace attended local schools for nearly 7 years. She learned fluent Japanese, embraced the culture, and developed a deep respect for its traditions before returning to America after her father's retirement. Despite graduating with excellent grades, Grace's dream of becoming an international language teacher disappeared when her father developed serious heart problems. Medical bills consumed the family's savings. Grace postponed college and accepted full-time work as a waitress to support her parents. Every morning she reminded herself that serving tables was not the end of her dream. It was simply the path she needed to walk first. As she carried drinks toward Nathan's table, she overheard several confused exchanges. She immediately recognized the polite Japanese phrases being spoken by Hiroshi. More importantly, she realized both men desperately wanted the same partnership but were trapped behind a wall of misunderstanding. Grace hesitated. She knew interrupting an important business meeting could cost her job, but she also remembered something her father often said before leaving for military deployments. Real courage isn't about having authority. It's about stepping forward when no one else can. Taking a slow breath, Grace politely approached Nathan's table and quietly explained that she spoke fluent Japanese. Nathan blinked in disbelief. The executives exchanged skeptical glances. A waitress? Saving a negotiation worth $100 million? It sounded impossible. Still, they had no better option. With permission from both parties, Grace took a seat slightly behind Nathan, carefully explaining that she had no professional certification but would translate as accurately as possible. The first few sentences changed everything. Instead of stiff literal translations, Grace communicated each speaker's intentions with remarkable clarity while preserving the respectful tone so important in Japanese business culture. When Hiroshi expressed concern about long-term manufacturing quality, Grace conveyed not only his words but the cultural meaning behind them. When Nathan passionately described his commitment to American workers, she translated his sincerity rather than simply converting vocabulary. Within minutes, the tension began disappearing. The executives sitting nearby watched in astonishment as both businessmen smiled for the first time all afternoon. Grace understood when a slight pause carried more meaning than an immediate answer. She recognized subtle expressions that translation software completely missed. She explained cultural nuances without embarrassing either side, allowing trust to grow naturally. For the next 2 hours, conversations flowed smoothly. Financial projections were reviewed. Engineering plans were discussed. Environmental commitments were clarified. Future expansion strategies were carefully negotiated. Every complicated issue that had threatened to destroy the partnership slowly found a solution. Nathan found himself looking at Grace with increasing admiration. She remained humble, never trying to draw attention to herself. Her only focus was helping two honest businessmen understand each other. As the afternoon sunlight streamed through the restaurant windows, Hiroshi finally smiled warmly before signing the final page of the contract. Nathan signed immediately afterward. Applause quietly spread through the private dining room. Several executives stood and shook Grace's hand. The $1 million deal had been saved by someone who had arrived at work expecting nothing more than another ordinary shift serving lunch. But the greatest surprise had not yet arrived. As everyone prepared to leave, Hiroshi requested one final conversation through Grace's translation. He explained that technical skills alone had never convinced him to invest in American companies. Character mattered far more. When the professional translator disappeared, Hiroshi intentionally observed how Nathan's team handled adversity. Instead of becoming angry or dishonest, they remained respectful and patient. Most importantly, a young waitress had stepped forward to help strangers without expecting anything in return. That single act of kindness convinced him his investment was in the right hands. Nathan felt tears gathering unexpectedly. He realized the contract had been secured not because of wealth or business strategy, but because ordinary people had chosen integrity over fear. The following morning, Nathan invited Grace to visit company headquarters. She assumed he simply wanted to thank her. Instead, she walked into the largest surprise of her life. Nathan had spent the entire night learning about Grace's background. He discovered her academic achievements, her postponed college dreams, and the sacrifices she had made for her family. Rather than offering a simple reward, Nathan created an opportunity. He offered Grace a full-time position as Director of International Relations trainee with complete tuition assistance to finish her degree in languages and global business. Every educational expense would be covered. Flexible hours would allow her to care for her parents while continuing her studies. Grace could hardly believe what she was hearing. She had never asked for recognition. She had simply tried to help. News of the remarkable restaurant meeting spread quickly across Ohio. Local newspapers celebrated the inspiring story of the waitress who rescued a historic business partnership. Television interviews followed, but Grace remained grounded. Every interview ended with gratitude toward her parents, her teachers in Japan, and the countless restaurant customers who had encouraged her during difficult years. Months later, construction began on the first manufacturing facility created through the partnership. Hundreds of workers found stable employment. Local businesses experienced new growth. Families who had worried about paying mortgages suddenly had hope again. During the grand opening ceremony, Nathan invited Grace to stand beside him as they welcomed the first employees. Looking across the crowd, Grace spotted her parents smiling proudly through tears. Her father's health had improved. Her mother's constant worries had finally begun fading. Everything she had sacrificed was slowly returning with unexpected blessings. Nathan often reflected on that unforgettable afternoon. Every business school had taught him about negotiation, leadership, and finance. None had taught the lesson that changed his life forever, that greatness sometimes arrives wearing a waitress uniform instead of an expensive business suit. Years later, Grace became one of the most respected international business leaders in the country, helping American companies build honest partnerships across the world. She never forgot where her journey truly changed. On the wall of her office hung a framed photograph of the small restaurant where one ordinary afternoon became extraordinary. Whenever young interns asked how they could achieve success, Grace never spoke first about education, ambition, or talent. She always spoke about kindness. Because knowledge may open a door, talent may create an opportunity, but compassion is often the reason someone chooses to keep that door open. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that even the smallest act of kindness can completely change another person's future. Special request: before the story ends, comment below with the words, "Kindness changes lives." We'd love to know how many people still believe that one selfless act can change the world. Nathan never forgot the day a frightened waitress quietly stepped into a moment of chaos and transformed it into hope. Grace never forgot that courage often begins with a single decision to help someone without expecting anything in return. And every family whose lives were changed by those new jobs became living proof that miracles rarely announce themselves with flashing lights. More often, they arrive through ordinary people who choose compassion over comfort, faith over fear, and service over recognition. In the end, the greatest fortune was never the million-dollar deal itself. It was the reminder that when hearts are willing to help one another, even impossible situations can become the beginning of extraordinary new chapters.